swagger, okay? Regardless of what happens out there, doesn't matter. Keep your swagger.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Five Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm your host today, TJ Branson, coming to you live from Austin, Texas. I'm on layover. Long day already. I mean, it's 1:45 in the afternoon. Had a medical emergency on this flight. Lady, she threw up all over my one of my jackets, and the hotel that I'm at does not have like a laundry service, so I guess I'm just out a jacket. But anyway, welcome to the Five Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at FHF Hockey. You can hop in the Fantasy Hockey Discord, and I'm sure there's other ways to get in touch with us. Comment section here live on YouTube is one way to do so. I got your live Week 20 preview, and as you can see, the game grid has a bit of a new look to it, and that's maybe it's hard to read, I think. There's some folks out there who really like the vertical grid. I think it looks a little bit better that we can see all 32 teams in one layout versus the up and down grid. You'll see it over at FHFhockey.com. But whatever you like. There's a little toggle button. You can check it out. But we're going to get into this because there are some teams that have really good schedules and some not so good ones. And it looks like Capitals are top of the list. There are a couple things worth getting into before we get into that. Big trade yesterday with Seth Jones going to Florida, Spencer Knight going the other way. Still unsure of what the goalie situation in Chicago is going to look like. They're out of retention spots, so they can't make any more deals that include a retention. So this is pretty much like any contender that's close to the cap or anything like that. You can cross them off from, I would guess it'd be Peter Mrazek, Arvid Soderblom, something like that. But there's a lot of rumors coming around with like Mrazek to Edmonton, whatever. But it does sound like they're just going to roll with Skinner in Edmonton. We'll see. But Chicago, I don't think they're quite done. It looks like Vlasic's going to be our power play one guy over there, if that interests you. But it also means that Seth Jones is going to probably be the power play one guy in Florida. And I feel pretty confident saying that just because of like how many people they've been through. Started out with Adam Boqvist and then Uvis Paslinkas and then Ekblad and then Nate Schmidt while Ekblad was out. And just so many options, and it doesn't sound like they've settled on one. And this trade kind of tells me that they're not even sold on Ekblad, who's been running the power play recently, more so than anybody else. So I think that's probably it for Ekblad in terms of power play one exposure. Not that he really did too much with it. He was doing okay, but not fantastic like we've seen. I almost said in years past, but in year past, like I felt like he did it once, right? So that's what we get out of Ekblad. But for Seth Jones, I mean, even if he's rocking power play 2, this is still a more high octane offense that he's going to be doing. But I do think it's going to be power play 1 for him there in Florida, which is going to be fantastic. I think, Bedard is one thing in Chicago, and maybe he wasn't able to get a lot of production that way. But this is a Stanley Cup winning team, the Stanley Cup defending champion. So I do think this is going to be big for Seth Jones. If he was out on your waiver wire, this is a good time to, I'm sure he's already been scooped up, but if you can, go grab him because I really like his outlook now that he's in Florida, even if it's power play 2, worst case scenario. But I do really think just with the indecision that Paul Maurice has had surrounding that power play 1 quarterback, for so long, it felt like he was trying to do everything but Ekblad. And now that Ekblad got it, they went out and they got somebody. So that's what I think. I think that's what's going to happen there. Minnesota is the other team that made a trade, and it's Gustav Nyquist for pretty much pennies. This one has a lot of just satellite takes on it, I think, and it whether or not that means that Kaprizov's kind of out longer term than we thought, which is what Bill Guerin has said lately, that he's still a little bit away, and now Joel Eriksson Ek is out. Their lines have just been so unpredictable. What's fucking Vinny Histroz's top line right now or something like that? So I don't even know what they're planning to do. Marcus Johansson, Marco Rossi, and Matt Zuccarello. So Hinostroza is down on line 3, but it feels like they're really not settled on any one thing. In terms of Nyquist, again, this is a very unpredictable team in terms of their deployment, just based on what we've seen recently. But I do think middle 6 is probably a pretty good bet, and then I think maybe second power play. I'm looking at that top power play unit, and Vinny Hinostroza's up there, and I wonder if that's not a spot that you can't win over, right? And that's not to say anything about Hinostroza's production. It's just like name value and rapport and kind of your entire resume. And I feel like Nyquist has a better resume. So I wonder what's going to happen there. And maybe there's different roles that they're playing. I like him better in Minnesota than I did in Nashville. So if you're in a deep enough league where Nyquist was a consideration in Nashville, I think he probably gets a boost here in Minnesota. So small move, but a move nonetheless. Now I want to get into I don't really want to do too much on injuries. There hasn't I don't have a list or anything. So I just want to kind of get down into brass tacks because I've been up since 3 a.m. I got puked on, and it's been a long day already, and I want to get to rest. And to be honest with you, Austin's a beautiful city. It's close to 80 degrees over here, and it was like 20 degrees in Philly. So I might walk around. I might get a tattoo. I've been thinking about that one for a while. We'll see. Maybe I get a little bit of ink today. But Washington, they have the best schedule. Perfect schedule, 4 days, 4 off nights, and it's weird how teams sometimes have the most optimum schedule in a week that it doesn't really matter. Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday are our heavy nights, and Tuesday's got 10 games, Thursday's got 9, which is 1 game over the off night threshold, and then Saturday's got 10, Sunday's got 8, and like even Monday, Wednesday, Friday are heavy for an off night, 6 games, 5 games, 6 games. But this is just a very balanced week where off nights are not going to be really what you're going for. Although, the Capitals do have some good opponents to be playing. They're going to see Ottawa. They're going to see the Rangers, Detroit, and Seattle. So I like their opponents. So they do still have a pretty good schedule. And, you have a little bit better flexibility going on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday than you do trying to squeeze, not even squeeze, but like trying to get somebody in for those other days. The other teams that Game Grid has highlighted here for the top teams: LA, the New York Rangers, Anaheim Ducks, Chicago Blackhawks, Winnipeg Jets, Vegas Golden Knights, the New York Islanders, Tampa Bay Lightning, Vancouver Canucks. Those are the top 10 teams by way of the Game Grid's algorithm. Some other teams that have 4 games is Dallas. They only have 1 off night, but again, this is a week where off nights don't really hold as much weight as usual. Buffalo's got 4 games, 1 off night. Seattle, same deal. San Jose Sharks and the Philadelphia Flyers the same way. The teams that we're looking at that have unfavorable schedules or bad schedules, Utah, Boston are at the bottom there. Boston, I guess the Game Grid doesn't really like them because they're going to see Tampa, and Utah has an off night. So that's why Utah is ranked just 0.5 above Boston right now. But 3 games, 0 off nights for Nashville, the Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flames, Chicago, Colorado Avalanche, and then 2 games, 1 off night for Utah. So if we're looking for volume, and this is one of those weeks where I think volume is going to be more important than off nights. just because, like, go through, set up your lineup. I'm pretty sure you're still going to have some roster space left on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Very light, heavy nights. So before you go, limiting yourself to the Washington Capitals, because I can only imagine, like, your league mates are probably thinking the same thing. Oh, 4 games, 4 off nights. Let's go take Alexei Protas, right? So if you're looking at guys like, Lars Eller or Marty Fehervary, like, is that really the best ad? And that's where it's going to contextualize itself down onto your specific league. So just, make sure your head's screwed on right, and pick these guys. What works best for your team, not what works best for the game grid. Like, yes, the best schedule, but not necessarily the best fit for your team. So that's something that you do need to take into consideration, obviously. So let's get into it. The Washington Capitals, probably the best team technically by way of off nights, and we're already talking about. Sorry, I'm trying to lock into my damn Yahoo. By way of off nights, Alexei Protas, already one that we're going to talk about. I think PLD shifted over 50%, so I don't know if we can really talk about him. But if he's out there, go check, see if he's out there, because he has been looking pretty good, at least, relative to what he's been doing this year. Other guys like Fevs, if you're looking for bangs, I think he's going to be a pretty solid source of bangs. And then... sorry, I'm getting set up. I went live, and like this Wi-Fi here in fucking in the hotel is no good. So what I'm looking at now is just Washington. I'm trying to fill dead air. Sorry, guys. So Protas, Fehervary. That's all I really like. I mean, Mangiapane's got some name value, but I don't see a lot of production out of him. I think those would be the only two that I'd really be thinking about. PLD, obviously, I'd like him as well. Just outside of like the 50% range, like PLD's at 52, Protas, McMichael, I guess 47%. If you can go find him, that'd be one worth checking out. But other than that, I think the LA Kings have some solid options too, and they are the Game Grid's number 2 team. I think Laferriere is somebody that we're going to be talking about a lot this week. He's going to come up on a lot of podcasts and things like that. Line 2, power play 1. I think Byfield is another one to go check out. Tri-eligible. So even though he's down 1 off night on the Washington Capitals with the tri-eligibility and light heavy nights, you're still going to be able, more than likely, you're still going to be able to fit him in into one of your roster spots. And I think what he's been doing over the last little stretch is maybe comparable with what Laferriere has been doing. So both these guys are somebody that I'd be eyeballing. I mean, Byfield, over the last 30 days, I'm looking at his averages. No goals, which is surprising, but he has thrown up a bunch of assists. His shots are looking pretty good. Not quite Laferriere status, but I don't know. Those would be the guys that I'd have 1 and 2. And really, like, I love Laferriere. Big fan of him. Right wing only, right? So you got Byfield with trial eligibility, and to me, that's like, flip a coin depending on what you like. Brandt Clarke, healthy scratch. So I think if you're holding him, it's probably time to move on. Like, Doughty's obviously taken power play 1 back, and they're working their way through things without Brandt Clarke, it seems. So, he had that run on power play 1 for the start of the season, but the hens have come home to roost, it looks like. Outside of that, I think there are some bangs here in LA if you're in a banger league or looking for something like that. Some of the guys that are big hitters on here, Tanner Jeannot, obviously, Trevor Lewis, those are guys that are worth looking at. Gavrikov is actually doing pretty good. Minutes are great, 24 minutes. He's hitting and blocking, which is pretty spectacular. But Tanner Jeannot, 29 hits in his last 9 games. And I mean, that can almost carry in certain leagues, like the one I'm looking at right now. Like, he's up there with guys who are scoring all points and offense and things like that. Oh my God, Joel, you gotta calm down, man. You should be sleeping. Isn't it like 5 a.m. in Moose Jaw or wherever you're at. All right, next team worth talking about, the New York Rangers. So their story has pretty much it's very interesting because with the trades that they've made, Jimmy Vesey going the other way, and they're sending so many mixed signals. Like Capo Caco is doing really well relative to what he was doing in New York. He's doing really well in Seattle. Like they're selling and they're buying, obviously with JT Miller, but now these deals with Parsonen coming in, and I forget that defenseman. I don't know that there was that much going on with that defenseman, but I can't pin this team down, whether or not they're going to be competing or what have you. So I don't know what to make of it. Zibanejad has seemingly turned a corner, which is spectacular. Power play one, running 5 forwards, so we're going to see Vinny Trocheck up there, and even Lafreniere is playing up there too, which is pretty fun. But the guys that we want to look at, Will Cooley is he's doing pretty well in terms of guys that you can pick up. 33% roster to left wing, right wing out of New York. Keandre Miller is going to be banging around a bunch, doing pretty good on blocks. Cooley is going to add some hits there as well as the offense. So I would, like, if you're going Cooley, I'd probably put him in the Tanner Jeannot range, but Cooley hands down over Jeannot at this point. But the hits are reliable. The points, I don't know if I'd consider them reliable, but I do love his even strength line. He's got power play 2 time at this point, so Will Cooley would be one guy that I'd be looking at if I was ranking these folks that I've already talked about. So what are we, 3 teams in? We're talking the Kings, and my 2 guys there would be Byfield and Lafreniere. And then for the Washington Capitals, I was liking PLD, but I would take him out of the range because he's over 50%. So Protas and Ferrari, but he's more of a banger. So, and then Cooley, I think I'd probably have Protas first, Byfield second, and then Lafreniere next, and then Will Cooley probably in that 4 range in terms of offense, and then bangs. I mean, you just look for your bangs, sort by hits, and then you're good to go. Chris Kreider has been all right. So he got dropped a bunch in leagues that I'm in. He's getting picked up, hurt right now. So maybe stash him if his schedule is good for your playoffs and like you think you can get by. I'm like violently unimpressed with what Chris Kreider's put together this year. Cheers, guys. All right. The next team that we're going to be looking at, the Anaheim Ducks. Always so fun to stream from because there are a gamut of options, and they're all pretty lowly owned. Like our best option right now is Jackson Lacombe for offense, and he's 41% rostered. Frank Vatrano right behind him at 66. So go check if he's out there. But the Anaheim Ducks, they're still rocking in that 4 games, 3 off nights. So Tuesday is our quote unquote heavy night from the Anaheim Ducks. I don't think this Toronto game is back on. You guys see that? So I have it on right now, and I started this episode up because it's the middle of intermission, but 0.001 seconds left with Matthew Nice. That's insane. What a finish to that period. All right, back to the Anaheim Ducks. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. Long day, like I said. Leo Carlson's looking pretty good. Ryan Strome is another one that I want to highlight here. 2 goals, 4 assists in his last 8 games, shooting very well, even throwing some hits in there. So the minutes that you're getting from Strome, line 1, power play 1, whereas like Jackson Lacombe is right now power play 2. And our power play 1 defenseman, do we even have one? Or are they running 5 forwards? I got McTavish, Terry, Zegras. Yeah, it looks like potentially 5 forwards, at least by the that lines extension for Google Chrome. Yeah. Okay. Moving forward, those are the guys I'd be looking at. So Lacombe would probably be top of my list. out of Anaheim. Vetrano, obviously, if he's out there, I love what he's able to put together every week. Ryan Strome right behind him, maybe a Mason McTavish. Cutter Gauthier with 4 goals in his last 8 games. But the minutes are abysmal, under 13 minutes average time on ice in that span. Leo Carlsson, also another one worth talking about. His last 8 games, he's got 9 points, which is fucking impressive. So if you're looking for offense and like just offense, he's got 4 goals on 8 shots in his last 8 games. So he's shooting once a game on average. 2 hits, 5 blocks, really not doing much in terms of the periphery. Damn, Pittsburgh scored again too. This game rocks. This Toronto-Pittsburgh game. This is so good. All right. So that's Anaheim for me. I don't know if any of these guys really take the cake. If Vetrano's out there, he'd be my number 1 target, even over like Protas and things like that. So Lacombe is I'd probably smack dab him in between Protas and like Byfield, probably in that top 3 range. I'd probably have him up there. Just because what he's been doing is always so it feels like a really good year. He's flirting with 50 points, which is not what you think. And like, I just made a trade for Zellweger in one of my dynasty leagues, and that got me to think like how cloudy this power play 1, heir apparent is in Anaheim. Like there's, Minchikov, there's Zellweger. It seemed like he was going to be the guy, and now this Jackson Lacombe comes out of nowhere, and you still don't know, like, do they draft a badass defenseman in this next draft? Like, does the totem pole shift after another draft? So you don't know. So I did feel like Zellweger was a bit of a gamble, given the trade that I made. All right, so that's it for Anaheim. Let's talk Chicago. I feel like there's maybe 2 players worth talking about, and Ryan Donato is one of them. I think the other one might be like Teravainen, maybe a Bertuzzi if you're feeling froggy, but Ryan Donato is I mean, he's crushing it right now. Like, look at his last 9 game stats. Like, last 30 days, 6 goals, 8 assists. Like, really, really highlighting himself for the trade deadline. And that's what makes me nervous, because this week that we're going into is the trade deadline, and Ryan Donato is somebody that I have pretty high on like the trade bait board. And think about what happens, the difference between a Ryan Donato on Chicago is a top line guy, top 6, whatever, power play 1. If he goes to a team that's buying, is a team that's in the playoff hunt one Ryan Donato away from a Stanley Cup final, like in their top 6, or on a top power play? I don't think so. So you go from being like a big fish in a small pond to being just a fish in a big pond. Like, think Florida's the one that's been rumored to be after Donato. And if they do wind up for that, maybe you can move down to Mackie Samoskevich on line 2, but you're still looking at power play 2. And Ryan Donato has 6 power play points in his last 9 games. And that's going to largely come from a top power play role in Chicago, exposure that he's not going to see. So that's my worry with Donato. Like, okay, you pick him up on Monday, and then Tuesday he gets fucking traded to a different team. Like, say he gets traded to, like, I don't know, like one of those bad teams at the bottom 10, right? Like, say he goes to Edmonton, right? And then all of a sudden you got 3 games, 0 off nights. And Ryan Donato, who's playing with like fucking Corey Perry or some shit. So I just want to be a little bit careful about Ryan Donato, because I do think Chicago still has something in the tank in terms of what they're going to be selling. Obviously a seller. Teuvo Teravainen is another one, again, with the same kind of like trade deadline caveat. 9 assists in his last 9 games, 3 power play points, 3 goals. Like, there's a lot of like offense coming out of Chicago, which is just so fucking weird. They're looking good. I do think Alex Vlasic is a good ad out of Chicago, because he's probably your top power play guy now. And even with Ryan Donato, like that, Ryan Donato, Teuvo Teravainen, Alex Vlasic, Connor Bedard, Tyler Bertuzzi, top power play. They're making things happen. So I think Vlasic is definitely the guy. I'd be all over it. But I do like Donato, especially if he can stay around there, because he is on fucking fire. there's no getting around it. So great time on ice, try eligible, which is fantastic. So even if like you have to think, oh, am I gonna chew down this one heavy night? I don't know. Try eligible. Same thing that I would have with Quinton Byfield. So Ryan Donato quickly jumps up inside the top 3. I'd probably have him number 1 just based on how hot he's been. So Ryan Donato, easy add this week. Not too worried about whether or not that off night is going to affect you. I am worried about the trade deadline on Friday. And if Ryan Donato is still a Chicago Blackhawk. And he's only 24% rostered. So go out and get him. He's putting the puck in the net just way too much. 23 shots in his last 9 games, 6 of them are goals. Just incredible stuff out of Donato. Really making some trade value because he's up there. If you're looking at the trade bait board, man, he is up there. Aman, I see your question, man. I'm gonna just bounce through this week preview and then I'll get to the questions. I think I might even take you guys over to the I'll do an outro and everything, but I think I might take you over to the game grid and or to 5-hole and just show you what I've been up to. So I've been doing a lot of like coding on the site lately, a lot of database stuff, but yeah, it's always fun. Especially after the show, I'll do the outro and everything so I can just clip it up. All right, next team, Winnipeg Jets. I mean, we talked about them last week. Perfetti. It's the same old guys, right? Like there's not a ton that's exciting. I guess like Nino Niederreiter is kind of like feeling it lately, but in terms of is it going to happen again? Is it going to continue? I don't know. Like Perfetti, another tri-eligible guy, but he's got 7 points in his last 8 games, which is pretty awesome. Nemesnikov, he's been frustrating. Like I feel like every time I pick him up, he doesn't do a goddamn thing. And sorry, I was totally way off base with Niederreiter. 1 goal, 1 assist in his last 8 games. So maybe not feeling it. Yeah. I think with Winnipeg here, I almost I would consider Cole Perfetti with how hot he's been. I don't know if he'd break into that top 3 for me, top 3 streamers, but it's worth considering. So yeah, he would probably. There's a ton of bangs in Winnipeg, but for offense, Perfetti is maybe the only guy that I'd consider there. Vegas, I think there's a little more options out of Vegas. That's the next team that the Game Grid has ranked up. And the guys that I'd be considering there, I mean, Barbashev always comes out. He's 37% rostered, 6 points in his last 7 games. Hitting, blocking at a decent enough clip to like make an impact, but he's not really carrying you. Dorofiev's kind of slowed down a little bit, only 2 goals in his last 7. I think out of here, the guys that I'd be looking at are bangers. Like this is another good team to just stack up on bangers. And Brett Howden, line 3, no power play time. He's got 7 assists in his last 7 games. I don't know how much I buy into that, like sustainability wise, but it's happening. You can't ignore it. Noah Hannafin, 61% rostered with Shea Theodore on the shelf. Noah Hannafin's your guy. So 61% rostered. That's very well within the just go check range if you need a power play 1 defenseman. Much rather have Hannafin than Alex Vlasic out of Chicago. But I think I'd rather have Seth Jones more than any of them. Okay, so out of Vegas, that's all I've got. The next team we're going to talk about are the Islanders. And surprisingly, there are options that I maybe not excited. Like I feel like that's too rich a word, but Palmieri. So I want to talk about Palmieri a little bit, maybe not off the cuff, but I did an article a couple weeks ago about actual second half performers. And I took the last 3 years and then split each season in half, found out whose point per game increased in the second half. And Kyle Palmieri was one of, I think, 8 names that every single year increased his production in the second half by 25% or more. That article is on Dobber Hockey. I think I posted on r/fantasy hockey too. But in one of my Eastern Edge columns, I talked about Palmieri as one of the only true second half performers. I know like Fiala is doing it right now, and I'm not trying to discount that, but he Fiala, like second half Fiala, that's his name, right? Like so many people are all about this second half Fiala, but Kyle Palmieri, man, like the data backs it up where it doesn't with Fiala. Palmieri consistently produces better in the second half, and that's what's happening right now. 6 goals in his last 9 games on 23 shots. The minutes are pretty good. Him and Anders Lee are the 2 guys that I think I'd be, and I think Brock Nelson can get kind of like lumped in there too. And Anders Lee, I'm putting him in here because he's got the deployment, he's got the cachet with the name value, and he always has the shot volume. His underlying statistics are very good. He's underperforming his expected goals, so you kind of like you assume over the last little bit at least, you assume that he's going to start catching up to that, right? Like he's getting in the dangerous places. He's just getting beat by a goalie. His scoring chances are always inside like the top 10, top 15 in the league. So this is a guy who has a nose for the net and is doing it. Tony DeAngelo. I can't believe I'm fucking talking about this guy, but he's actually doing pretty well. He is top power play for the Islanders. Not that means a lot because he has 0 power play points, I think, through the year, but doesn't he have points in like 6 out of his 10 games as a New York Islander? Maybe it's 6 out of 11 by now, but like he has consistently been producing. And Brock Nelson, I mean, it's surprising that this guy's only 55% rostered. I guess there's not a lot of folks out there that have room for a center only. Maybe that's it. But the Islanders do have a weird schedule, which if you're able to kind of like manipulate your ads and things like that, like they have a back-to-back to start the week, the fantasy week, and then a back-to-back to finish the fantasy week. So maybe you can bounce around between a Brock Nelson and a Kyle Palmieri. But if you're able to like jam a bunch of those games in the middle, like the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday segment, and kind of parry that with a New York Islander just bookend on the outside. Kyle Palmieri is somebody that I consistently see as a second half producer, and he is one of the few names that actually showed up in that data, in that research that I did. And I'm pretty sure it was 3 weeks ago, but my Eastern Edge article. So check that out. Palmieri is a fun name that kind of poked out there. Another one that's on the trade board. So maybe Palmieri is not a New York Islander by the end of the week, but regardless of where he is, I believe in his production in the second half. So right now, pretty good week. You can at least get the Monday, Tuesday in good faith that he's not going to be traded maybe by Tuesday. Heavy on the maybe, but we'll see. Alexander Romanov doing a bunch of banging around too. So 30 blocks in his last 9 games. Pretty good. All right, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then we'll get to the Vancouver Canucks. I don't know that there's a ton to talk about on either of these teams, just because I don't like the way the Vancouver Canucks have been playing, and Tampa Bay is super top heavy, where you kind of see the top 5 guys, top 6 guys are incredibly rostered, and then it just drops off at Anthony Cirelli at 47%, and then Nick Paul at 13%. So it's this huge plateau where like Brandon Hagel at 96%, and then it drops way the fuck down to Anthony Cirelli. So I guess Nick Paul, and Anthony Cirelli, but I don't think they're number one. Their matchups are pretty tough. They're going to see Florida. Actually, that's probably their only tough. Actually, Columbus is no slouch these days, but the schedule looks pretty good in terms of opponents. But I just don't believe in. I don't feel good betting on a Nick Paul with line 3, power play 2, Darren Radish. Like, it just doesn't feel as much of a lock as like a Ryan Donato or a Quentin Byfield or Alexis Protas. So there are guys that I definitely have a lot higher ranked than any of these Tampa Bay Lightning. But with Vancouver, I've been streaming these guys like crazy. They've had good schedules for me and for my particular need. Jake DeBrusk is somebody that I've streamed a lot. I currently own him. I'm staring at my own name right now next to him at 37% rostered. I'm out of moves this week, or I probably would have dropped him. but he has a decent enough schedule next week. But they are one of the teams that does not have 4 games. Vegas is the other one inside the top 10. The only reason I think Vegas snuck into this top 10 is just because they're playing Pittsburgh and they have 3 off nights. So the off nights really start to weigh into this game grid. Oh yeah, so I mean, Connor Garland, Jake DeBrusk, those are the guys I'd be looking at out of Vancouver. So it kind of like worked its way down in terms of teams. I think Ryan Donato is probably my number 1. I might even have Teuvo Teravainen above Alexei Protas too. But I think this is a really good week for streaming, and a week where you don't have to limit yourself to teams that are high up in the off nights or whatever. So very good week to be doing your streaming and things like that. I don't have much else. Obviously I'm pretty sure Maddie's out. I forget what he's doing, but it's like some sort of guys weekend or something like that. I haven't heard from Raj in God knows how long. So I don't know. It's just me. So we're looking at 30 minutes of episode. How's that for a schedule breakdown? Yeah, we didn't do the storylines or anything like that, but again, weird day for me. Yeah. So I guess I'll roll the outro stuff, and then Aman, I'll get to your question. If anybody else has questions in the chat, we got 100 people watching right now, so feel free to throw up in the chat if you got questions, things like that. You guys can always find us on Twitter at FHF Hockey. To DM, throw us a at message prompt, post, whatever the fuck. And then the Fantasy Hockey Discord, there's like almost 3,000 people in there. Huge resource, invaluable resource. Yep. So there it is. I'm gonna throw up like so I can hide for a little bit, and then I'll be right back. Bye. Love you guys. Hey, I'm back. Hey there. All right, I'm still on the good one. All right, 37 and a half minutes. That's where I'll cut it for the oh my God, this is just going to keep repeating. I always do that. But what I'll do now, I'll open this up to you guys in the chat. And then I'll do like a little breeze through the 5-hole site, because I'm working on some fun stuff and I kind of want to show it off. Yeah. So Aman, this is your question here. 12 team points, weekly lock, no peripherals, weeks 20 through 23. Not sure what that is. You're coming from Twitter, so I wonder if it was just a weird thing. Best rest of season, maybe it was through 24. I wonder. Yeah, you're gonna, Aman, if you're still here, let me know, because it came through as like //U0026 blah blah blah. Weeks 23. I know Minnesota has a really good one there. That's not going to help you out too much. 12 team. Yeah, it did it again. Yeah. So 12 team, I'm going to guess it's either 2 or 3 rounds. So you're probably going 23, 24, 25 maybe, or 2 weeks. Maybe 26 is the one that's in there. Skip the hyphen, because I think that's not translating well. Maybe just let me know 23, 26 or something like that. But that's what I'm going to guess it is. So we're week 20 right now. Playoff weeks are 23 and 24. Okay, so only 2 weeks. That's damn. I guess 6 teams make it with a bye, or 4 teams make it. That's strange. All right, So Rust, Fiala, Svech, Timo. So just raw ranking, I'd probably have Fiala up there. Then it's weird, but I think I might like Rust better. Nobody's gonna like hearing this, but I think I might like Rust better than Svech or Timo right now. So your playoffs start March 24th. Am I getting that right? And they end, I think, April 14th. Yeah, I think Fiala probably have him number one. I like LA's schedule too. They play 8 games at home, 3 games away. They're a lot better at home. 3 off nights, which, somebody like Fiala is not going to be hitting your bench anyway. So he's not somebody that I'm really worried about for off nights. 11 games, which is kind of the top of the table there. 12 is the max that play through March 24th through April 14th. So as long as that is your playoff format, or wait, that's 3 weeks. So the 24th through, no, that's 2 weeks. I'm just stupid. Yeah. So Fiala would be, how many guys are you looking for here, Mon? Do you want 1, 2? Do you want me to rank them? Because I think Fiala would probably be top for me. And then I think based on all these guys, like, yes, off nights during the playoffs is really good. But I think with guys of this caliber, you're not really looking at off nights as much because these are guys that shouldn't be on your bench no matter what. So when you start to go for off nights, yes, it opens you up to have streamers on those heavy ones. Okay, so only can pick one. I think Fiala is the easy answer here. LA, 8 games at home, 3 games away during those 2 weeks. And yeah, I think Fiala would be my guy. Hopefully you're not just dropping Rust, Svech, or Timo, or maybe like you have trade offers or something like that. But yeah, I think I'd be firmly in the Fiala range. All right, if anybody else, so we have another one here from Aman. Same kind, Faber, Burns, Riley, or Lohrei, whatever his name is. Faber's got that Minnesota schedule that consistently shows up. 11 games, 7 off nights, which is pretty good, but we are just not seeing a bunch out of Faber. We're not seeing a bunch of power play performance at all. So I like Burns for Carolina right now on 4th D-man. Only have room for 1, so we're picking 1 here. Between Faber, Burns, Riley, and Lohrei. Man, where does Carolina rank in terms of games? They're middle of the pack, 10 games, 4 off nights, 6 games at home. Only 2 back-to-backs. See, that's where I get a little hairy. Faber is on the top power play, and he's got a ton of off nights, so he opens you up to streaming a little more. And I'm not like, I don't know how sold I am on Burns as the top power play option. Yeah, I mean, even there you go. He's back on power play 2 already. So, yeah, I think, I don't know if it's going to pay off though, because I really want to say Faber or Burns here. But I feel like Faber's got it just based on power play 1, but Vinny fucking Hinostroza on your power play 1. It's not awesome. Yeah. Got to go for Faber on this one. Riley, Lohrei, not really sold on either. Like, we've seen Lohrei on power play 1 already this season, and it just hasn't really, it hasn't sparked enough interest, I don't think, for me to be like, all about it. But I guess you could say the same thing with Faber too. I think with this one, all these guys kind of like, I know Lohrai's on, but he has been on power play 1 before this season, even with McAvoy in, and we just haven't really seen him make any noise, and that's what I'm getting at. So I think Faber on this one, I probably would just go for the off nights because that'll open you up to stream on heavier night or weekly lock. You're not really doing a bunch of streaming shit. At least with your pickups, you wouldn't be as limited. I think I'm still going Faber. I'm trying to talk myself into it here. Yeah, I think Burns would be a close second. Lari would be probably tied with Burns. But if we're talking Morgan Riley, unfortunately, he'd be last for me. All right. So what have I been working on? I've been doing a lot of database shit on this on the site here. Let's see if I can share screen. I'm working on like a stats screen right now. And this is, I think it might be live. But right now it's just a couple leaderboards, but I want to have like, game logs for guys, advanced stats, things like that. One thing that I've been working on that's a lot of work is this. It's kind of like a dashboard for sustainability, which is fun. Some things still need to be hashed out. Like this table works, this table works, this one works, this one works, and then I have a bunch of other shit that's going to go all over here. Why is this not fucking loading? Weird. Well, I guess I need to figure out why that's fucking broken. All right, maybe I'm not showing off. All right, what's next, guys? Yeah, sorry about that. That shit's broken. I'm trying to figure out what else I've been working on. I did, some shit with the game grid, some stuff that I forgot that I left up, like those fucking glowing weeks or glowing days for off night, heavy night. Probably gonna take that away. Like these, it's almost like Christmas lights, right? Like heavy night has a red glow to a off night has a green glow. So yeah, that's it. If nobody else has any questions in the chat, like 115 folks in here, get ready. I'm gonna finish my drinky poo, edit this one, post it up. Hope you guys are digging it, and feel free to chirp me. I'll be hanging out. I don't know if I'm gonna go out into town. They put us on the other side of the river, so you have to do about a mile and a half of walking. Maybe I'll Uber, but 6th Street's a ton of fun here in Austin, Texas. So maybe I'll head out that way. It's only like 2:30, but it's OT right now for Toronto, Pittsburgh, and I'm going to get over to that one. All right, guys, hit me up in the Discord. Hit me up on Twitter if you have any other questions that I might have missed. Till then, love you guys. Bye.